Hello, you're welcome back. So it's time for part 3 of our creative agency website design series in Figma, and today we're going to be wrapping up the desktop version of this homepage, and we are going to refine the final details, align everything perfectly, and get this desktop design fully complete before we move on to the mobile design in next week's episode. So if you've been following this series, you're going to love how this one comes together. And if you are new, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss next week's episode. So for next week's episode, we are going to be diving into the mobile version of this same homepage. So this is basically how the mobile version looks, and this is what we are going to be treating next week. So let's jump right into what we have for today. We are going to go over to the next part. So the next part is creating the frequently asked questions. So for that, I'm also going to use, let me quickly use this because it has almost similar structure to this. So I'm just going to duplicate this and push this down to the bottom. So this is going to be at the bottom here. The first thing we're going to do is, first of all, rename the entire thing. So for this, I'm just going to name it. So we don't need any description for this one. So we are just going to move forward by putting FAQ then with a small x, and then in bracket, I'm just going to type in common questions. So once I hit enter, you see that it has updated. So now where it's going to be tricky is, let's quickly, we don't actually need this particular paragraph here, although it will come in handy. But before that, let me quickly rename this entire frame. So the name of this frame will be FAQ. Alright, so now that we have this, let me quickly make sure that everything is aligned properly. Let me select the home. So testimonials and this is about us. Although I don't know why the frame is currently here, the nav bar. I'm just going to leave the nav bar at the end here. Although the nav bar is, we're going to let her make the nav bar like stick to the top. But for now, let's just work with this. So now this is what we have. This is like the testimony. This is like the frequently asked questions. And let's make sure that everything is intact. So now we are going to quickly start building out the frequently asked questions. So first of all, I'm going to take off this. I'm going to take this off. In fact, let's just delete this entire frame here. So I'm going to select this and then I'm going to drag it. Make sure you select the frame, not the home page. I didn't select the home page. I just selected the frequently asked questions. So I'm just going to stretch this. And the first thing I'm going to do is, I would have loved to copy one of these and place here, but let's just build from scratch. So from scratch, the first question that we have is, what services do you offer? So that's the first question, and that's going to be like, let's make it drop 24, and then give it like some sort of like medium. Let me see how that appears here. I just don't want it to be too large. You see our images have been updated here, and it's going pretty well. Okay, now this is what we have here. Frequently asked questions, what services do you offer? But I don't want it to look like this, so I'm going to add like a plus sign. So to add a plus sign, remember we are creating our components on the go. So I'm just going to come over here and duplicate one of these so that I can add the plus sign to the icons. So don't forget, you're creating your design system as you go on, so you need to always update your icons or whatever asset you're bringing in. You need to update it. If you're making it a component, you need to always update your component library. Alright, so now the next thing we're going to do is just to type in plus. Alright, so I'm going to select plus. Now that it has swapped, I'm simply going to make it a component so that I can reuse it. So I'm going to copy this, then come over here and then paste it inside of here. So you see that it's going to stack by itself. And now we can now select both of these and make it a component. Sorry, an auto layout, make it an auto layout. And then I'm going to center it properly and change it. This is already good at auto, but one thing is that we want to, stretch this a bit so that it can accommodate other questions. So I'm going to stretch this back here a bit. Yeah, so now that we have this is exactly what we have. So let me see how that looks. Oop, it looks too far from the plus sign, so I'm just going to move it down here. Alright, so now that we have this, let me type something else and see how that fits. Alright, so this looks amazing. So I'm just going to try to reduce this to like 20. Let's see how that fits in. Let's try 18 and let's see how that works. Oh, not bad. Alright, so I'm just going to change it to semi-bold then. Alright, so this is what we currently have. Now, one more thing, I'm just going to add like a little padding, top and bottom padding to be like 12, not 12. So 12 looks great. Now we're going to add like a stroke color, and then the stroke is just going to be at the bottom. Alright, this is how it looks. Although it looks very close to it, we might just increase the padding to like 16 and see how that feels. Alright, 16 close. You know what, let's just make use of 20 and see also. Alright, so yeah, I think 20 looks okay. So now I'm just going to take this outside. I'm going to like add it inside of a frame so that I can see what I'm editing. So I'm going to call this question. So I'm going to make sure that this and this is in auto layout, and then I'm going to stretch this. So this should just remain at the top here. Now that we've stretched it, you know what I'm going to do? Instead of adding a bottom stroke to this, I'm just going to make the divider or the outline stand on its own. So that's what we are going to do now. So I'm just going to remove the stroke. We don't need the stroke here. We don't need the stroke. No, I'm just going to select this, copy this, and then select the entire frame and paste it. So now we're going to change this to vertical layout. And now we're going to go over to so we're just going to paste it here. Alright, so it's a bit smart, so we're going to reduce this to like 14, and then make sure it's on fill container, and then this is going to be regular, and finally we're going to change it to gray text. Alright, so now that we have this, I'm just going to hit auto layout to this. So this the height is going to be hog, and then this is just going to be like 20. Alright, so top and bottom padding, we're just going to remove all that. Let's keep the gap, that's 12. Alright, so this is what I want. I'm just going to experiment with this. Let me quickly make this a component. and then select this, create a property for this. So I'm going to put this and then I'm also going to add a kind of like appearance. So I'm going to say show answer, and then for this I'm also going to create a component property for this. So I'm going to ask question. So this is question and this is answer. So now we are going to we are going to turn this off, and then I'm going to create a variant for this and then turn this on. Okay, let me stretch this and see. All right, okay, there's a little problem here. You know what, we are just going to remove the appearance for this. We're just going to remove the appearance for this altogether. That's the component property we added for this, so we are just going to remove it. So what we are going to do here instead is let me stretch this so that this can go off. I'm going to create like a boolean property, which is like, I'm going to name this boolean, and I'm going to call this false, and then I'm going to turn this off and then push this maybe a distance of 20, and then this will be true. So this will be true. So now since this is false and this is true, let's now try it. So I'm going to call this FAQ. So I'm going to experiment that. I'm going to copy this and come over here. This entire thing that we created here, I'm just going to paste to replace it. So now that we've pasted to replace, I'm going to duplicate this, select both of this, and add auto layout to it, and change the layout to vertical layout. And then I'm going to give it like, and then I'm going to add like an outline inside of this. So I'm just going to add the outline again, while holding shift. So it looks like it didn't enter inside, so I'm just going to cut it and then paste it inside of this. So, and change the outline to like fill, and change it to our stroke color, then push it to the top. So now that we have this, I think this is kind of like much, but let's just see how it looks. All right, this is how it looks. I don't know how to feel about this, but let me just see if this is going to work. All right, so I'm just going to duplicate this and duplicate this. So I'm going to name this divider, and I'm also going to name this divider moving forward. So now, since we have this, we have a total of like 4 questions. So I'm just going to add one more question. I'm going to duplicate this and push it downwards. So now that we have this, we are going to quickly edit the questions. But before we edit the questions, let's quickly edit the questions. But before we edit the questions, let's quickly fix this. Let's add like some sort of prototyping to this. So I'm going to go over here, zoom in, and as always, we're going to connect this to this. And on click, this is going to change to this. So I want it to be smart, animate, and linear. So I'm going to leave it at 800, and let's see how that works. So this, if this is also selected, this should go back to this. You can decide to drag just the icon when only the icon is selected also, but for this I'm just going to make the entire frame when it's selected. So let's try that right now. Alright, so this looks okay, but I don't like the fact that it's kind of like looking like it's closing at the top of this. So I'm just going to change this the way it looks. Although since we've achieved what we want to achieve, there's just this little trick I want to do here. I want it to look like it's rotating, then it will rotate and turn to like an X. So I'm just going to rotate it, rotate. All right, so there's a little issue here. So I'm going to select the plus sign inside of this particular plus frame. All right, I like this plus sign, but I can't actually edit the plus sign, which is not what I want. So I'm going to go over to huge icons and bring in another plus icon where I can edit the strokes. All right, let's quickly do that. So I'm going to come over here and then hit the plus sign again. All right, let's see this. It's same thing. Let me try this other one. All right, so this is exactly what we want. I like the way this looks. If I select this, you see how this looks. It's just the plus, but this one is add, and you see how like I can edit the individual elements. So this is what I want. So I'm just going to change this to like a component and then copy this and go back to where we have that component. All right, so I'm just going to select this and select this and paste to replace as always. So now that we have this now, I'm going to select this, then paste to replace, and then I'm going to select both of this. Or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, for us to make this little illustration work, I'm going to detach both of this. I don't want them to be, because the component lets me make it possible. So I'm going to detach it to do that. So to detach it now, what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to make it rotate 360. I don't know if this looks okay. It doesn't look balanced. Let me do that again. All right, so let me try 45. This is how 45 looks. Let's try 90. Okay, 90 takes it back to this. So the next thing we are going to try, let's try 135. All right, so let's try 135 and see. So let me try this and see. Yeah, so this is exactly what I want. Okay, but I don't like the fact that it's turning this other way, so I'll just have to just make it turn the other way. So to make it turn the other way, this is going to be minus 135, minus 135. Okay, so you see now, I like the way it turns now. It turns like how we want it to turn. So that for this particular animation here, sorry, the opening and the closing, I want to change this to ease in and ease out. And let's see how that works. Exactly. So I want it to look like it's closing the whole thing, not the other way around. All right. So I think this should be the same with every other thing. All right. So since we already have this, I'll just have to now go back and edit the questions. So to edit the questions, I'm just going to come over here. So the first question, this is the first question that we have there on our list. So I'm going to open everything so that I can edit it. So I'm going to make everything through so I can edit the questions inside. And then I've already created this. Hopefully that's the correct answer that I give there. Alright, so I'm going to go over here and then close this. Then this is like the last question. And then finally the final response. Alright, so since we have all this, I'm just going to close them, select this, and close. Alright, maybe I'll just leave one open so you can know that okay, it's something that is supposed to be opened. So if you look at now, they have different response, which is what we want. So now we are done with that. So finally, I'm going to, the other time I stretched this, so I'm just going to change this back to hug. So now that we have this on hug, I'm going to move forward by creating the final. So let me just call this content. And let's make sure that we renamed everything before we move forward. So I'm seeing frame here. So I think that will be from the components. So I'm just going to go over to the frequently asked question. So I'm going to rename this to questions post icon. Close icon. So I'm going to copy that so that I can also paste it here. Alright, so now that we have all that set up, let's make sure that every other thing too. Let's check this if this has anything that is not spelled correctly. Oh, we don't want any layout that is not. So I'm always going to call this content. So I guess every other thing is named properly. So let's check the recent work also. Let's make sure everything is named correctly. Alright, so the benefits. So let's make sure we are naming everything. Alright, so now that we are done with this, the final aspect of this video is where we are going to create the footer. So to create the footer, I'll just quickly duplicate this. It has almost the same structure as what we are going to build. So this is our brand color. So this is our logo for now. You might use any logo you want to use. So I'm just going to come over here and paste to replace it. I didn't want to think too much about the logo. So maybe I can just give it like our primary color and see how that looks. Yes, but one thing about this is that this is going to have a fill, unlike every other section. So this is going to have our text color as the fill. So this is more like the footer. So now that we have this, I'm going to quickly start working on this. So the first thing we're going to do is to create like a little input field where users can input their email to subscribe to the agency's newsletter. So to do that, we're going to need like a frame and a button. So I'm going to copy this button. We already have a button. So this frame is going to have like an outline, which is like the stroke. And we're going to change this to like 0.5. And then this is going to be outside, and the corner radius is going to be like 100%. And I'm going to duplicate this. Alright, I didn't see duplicate. Oh, it did duplicate. So I'm just going to paste to replace. That's to add the button we recently added. So this is going to be the subscribe button. So I'm going to call this primary. So we've already changed it to our primary, and we're going to change the content to subscribe. So most of you might be wondering that this video is taking so long. It's because we are not hiding anything. So because I'm making everything a component so you can see, so that you won't be confused when I'm doing some editing. This is a good way to actually build your product or whatever project you're working on. Make sure you're always creating your components. Make sure you don't skip that part so that things will be easier for you to edit when it's time to edit. So I'm going to just center this properly, and there's a little thing I'm noticing here, so I'm going to change this to hug. Although this is kind of like larger than our button, so we're just going to make this the same size with our button, which is like the height of 43. So it's the same size with our button now. So the next thing we're just going to do is just to add in like a little text inside of it, which is going to be subscribe. to our newsletter. So now that we have that, I'm just going to add like some dots, and then I'm going to change this to regular, and this is going to be 12, and this is going to be our text color. Ooh, although it's not too bright, but it's still fine. So I'm just going to push this to the end, center it properly, and I want the distance from it to the end to be like 12, so I'm going to do 2 and 10. And let me see how that looks. If it's not good enough, I'm going to change it to like 16 or so. So let's change it to 16. Alright. So there's something I noticed is too much, so I'm just going to change this like 320. I want it to be like this. So now that we have this first part done, you know what? I just like the fact that the logo is white and black. Probably I'll be creative, like when I'm doing the final touches, I'll be creative with the logo, but for now let the logo just be white. Alright, so now that we have this, we have like another section down there, which is going to be by subscribing you agree blah 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 blah. So I'm going to do this by subscribing, just a little disclaimer, you agree to our privacy policy. So but this is going to have like its own, so I'm going to remove this and duplicate this so that this will have its own separate space, and I'm going to now select this and this, add auto layout to it. Don't worry, we are going to rename everything very soon, and the distance between them should just be 4 because it's test, for God's sake. Okay, I think 4 is too little. Alright, so the next thing we are going to do now is to add like a little underline. No, just on this one is not going to have an underline, please. Yeah. So one more thing is we're just going to come over here now and change this. Everything is just going to be regular. Nothing is going to be bold. So this is just going to be regular. Except this, we might just make this medium a bit so it's slightly different from that. And this is just going to be 12 also. And I think this is cool. So this is going to be privacy policy. So now that we have this as privacy policy, I'm going to select both of them, add auto layout to it, and then change the layout to vertical layout, and this should just be like maybe 20. But this is going to be at the top, and this is going to be the next thing. So let's see how that looks. Okay, this is coming to life little by little. I'm kind of like tempted to reduce this a bit also. Let me still reduce this to maybe like 280. I think this doesn't look bad. Alright, or let's just change it to 300. Let's leave it at 300. Alright, so this is at 300 now, and this is our privacy policy. And then the next thing is contact us. So I'm going to duplicate this, and this is going to be contact us, and we will now have like different types of the different social media handles that they can contact us or reach us on. So I'm just going to create this box, and I'm going to call this this is going to be X, and this is going to be like corner radius of 8, and I would want this to be like 24, not too much, not too big. I think 24 looks perfect, so I'm just going to give it corner radius of 4, and then let's give it our gray text color. So I'm going to Ctrl X it and then paste to replace. So this is what I want, and then I'm going to give it like a little more gap in between it. So this is going to be X, this is going to be we're going to call this LinkedIn, and duplicate. The next one we're going to call that Instagram, and the next one we're going to call it YouTube. So I don't know if we want to add YouTube here, but to add the icons, I'm just going to select each of the frames. And before we do anything here, I would like us to add those icons here first under our icons. So we have them here. So that's like I mentioned like 4 icons. So I'm just going to select all of this and duplicate, then move it down. Alright, so I don't think we need this last one. We just need like 4 icons. So for this particular icon, Or you know what? I don't think we'll be using this plus, so I'm just going to delete this plus because we don't need it. We only need this one that we can manipulate. And I'm just going to push it. And then push this. Alright, so I'm going to delete this. So now that we've gotten to this stage, I'm just going to come over here. We're going to use huge icons to bring in the icons. So the first icon is Twitter. Let's try Twitter and see. Alright, so this is the X logo, and the next one is LinkedIn. So we're going to make use of this. Then we're going to select the next one, which is Instagram. I'm going to select this. And then finally we have YouTube. So we're going to select this for YouTube. So now that we brought in all this, I'm just going to select all of this. Always update your component. Don't forget that. Always update your component. So I'm just, no, this is not what I want. I'm going to go back. So it's still displaying the blue highlight. So I'm going to select here, this drop down here, and create multiple components. We don't want them like the same. So since we already have this first one, I'm just going to copy this and then move it down here and zoom in. And I'm just going to drop it inside of here. No, I'm just going to paste it inside of here. I'm just going to paste it inside. Okay, I don't know why it's actually not going inside of this. So let me try pushing it manually inside of this. All right, so it's now inside. I'm going to center it properly. And then I'm going to reduce it to like 16. Then center it properly. And then we're going to change the color to our white color. Alright, so now that we have this, I'm just going to copy this, select this, and select this, and Control Paste so it appears inside. So now it's time to now swap the icon. So the next one is LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn is kind of like acting up, so I'm just going to do this. Although we are still going to change the width of the stroke because it's looking like too solid. Let's bring everything in first. So finally we have like YouTube. Alright, so for this I'm just going to select this and change this to 1. And same here, I'm going to hit enter to select it, change it to 1, hit enter to select it, change to 1, hit enter to select it and change to 1. So now that we have this, I'm just going to center them properly. Alright, so now that we've centered this properly, this is what we currently have. Let's see if that looks great. Alright, so we have them inside of this, but it's looking a bit off. So I'm just going to select this and reduce the opacity of all this. Or let's just make it transparent instead. Or let me see how that plays out. Let's see if I can edit it this way, so it's not too visible. I think this looks better. So finally we're going to add like a divider here also. Alright, I noticed like the divider is not inside. Always cross check if your divider enters inside, because if you enter inside, obviously it's going to form its own, like it's going to follow the auto layer, because this particular frame has auto layer. So there's something I noticed. We need to actually add auto layer from within out. So what I'm going to do is just select these two and the logo and add auto layout to it. So now that we've added auto layout to those two, can now change the alignment to a vertical layout, maybe change the layout to vertical layout. So this is just going to be 40. I don't want anything more than 40, And now that we have this, we're going to change this to fill, and then the gap to be auto. Exactly. So this is what we want. And then the divider, let me call this divider, please. So the divider is going to be gray text, or let's use a stroke. So the stroke is very visible. Let's try the gray text and see. I don't want something too visible. And then I'm just going to change this to probably like 0.5, and let's see if 0.5 works well. All right, it shows that there's kind of like, you know, a divider there, which is looking amazing. And I'm going to make sure that this is on fill, so it fills the entire thing. All right, so this is what we have. So finally, what we're going to have next is like the links. So we don't want to waste too much time here, so we're just going to collect the links from up here and add it. So this is what we have so far. Look at how we've built something amazing that looks very, very interesting. You know, this is the kind of project that you want to add to your portfolio because it looks very, very neat. So now to do that, I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to go to the top and copy this. Since we already have it, so I'm just going to copy this, come over here, and then I'm going to duplicate this and paste to replace as usual. So now that we've pasted to replace, there's something I want to do here. So I'm going to change this to like 14, and then we're going to change this to our gray text. So let's see if, hope nothing is lost. I'm going to bring in text. So for the text, what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to copy this entire thing. There's like a trick I want to do here. So I'm just going to duplicate this, paste to replace. And then for this, I'm just going to select this, then copy, select this and paste to replace. And then I'm going to delete this. I just want to make use of that. So this is going to be auto. And then this is going to be on fill. So this is what I want to achieve. And then we're going to change this to 2025 to forge. All right, result. All right, so now that we have this, I think this looks amazing. Let's see how that looks. Let me play around with this and see why this looks weird. I'm just going to try to change the layout. Let's push it to the right and see. It doesn't look bad though. You know, I'm just going to leave it at this then. So I'm just going to leave it at this. And I think that's it. So we're going to actually add some outline to this to make sure, to indicate that this is also a link. So I'm just going to add like some outline to this to indicate that this is also a link. Alright, so we have come to the end of this particular episode. So moving forward, we're going to create every other episode and make sure that we are moving on a good pace moving forward. At least we've created like the hardest part, which is like the main landing page. So now that we have this, see you in the next video.